Good afternoon, everyone out there in YouTube land. This is Am Lee, your everyday light worker, bringing you part five, or I believe it's part four of my sexual harassment series, where we talk about what sexual harassment is and what you need to do to protect yourself from it if you should be a victim of it while at work. And it is very prevalent in today's workforce. So, probably everybody who's a female and sometimes even men in the workplace, you need to hear what you can do to protect yourself against sexual harassment. So, I'm Lee. I am a lawyer. I call myself the hip hop litigator because in order I have litigated these kinds of complaints for many years and investigated these kinds of complaints for many years. And so when I'm going in to litigate, in order to amp myself up, I listen to hip hop. So that's why I call myself the hip hop litigator, because in order to litigate, you have to be kind of amped. You got to be so as you can see, I look a little different today. I put on makeup just because I like playing around with makeup. So sometimes you'll see me in makeup, sometimes you won't. But today, I've got my face all made up. So I do this for you. Not really. I just do it whenever I feel like it, but for you. All right. So let's get into it. I have to look at my notes, y'all, because I can't remember all this stuff off the top of my head. But today we're going to talk about a type of sexual harassment. We've already talked about unwanted flirting and dating and what that looks like. Now let's get into unwanted attention and touching. So, example of unwanted attention that's very dangerous, and you should take it very serious if it starts to happen to you, not only in the workplace but anywhere. Take it very seriously. Report the authorities. Let everyone that cares about you know this is happening to you. Is stalking. So, stalking is continuous and intrusive monitoring of an individual's activities, both in the physical world and online. And such, they might track your movements, they might send you unsolicited messages, they might pop up places where you are at that they have no reason to be, and they'll make up excuses for why they need to be there. That is called stalking. It's very dangerous. I'm sad to report that a lot of times stalkers kill their victims. So this is a very, very serious thing. Um, so that's a type of sexual harassment, of course. Sometimes sexual harassment crosses over into the criminal. And stalking is something that crosses over into the criminal. If you are being stalked, you do need to report it to police authorities and try, although it's very difficult, but try to get a protective order saying that, the individual can't come within a certain amount of yards or feet of you as a person because you're afraid that they might harm you. Or usually some harm has to have occurred before you can get that. The law is really, there's a lot of holes in the law that do not protect women. So I'm just letting you know, though, that stalking is very dangerous, and there should be more that is done and can be done to protect women who are being stalked, because it is very dangerous and results in death oftentimes. So stalking is like a huge red flag if you are experiencing that at the workplace or anywhere else. Another thing that could happen in the workplace is that you could receive unwanted gifts. So if you are repeatedly getting gifts that are of a personal or intimate nature, even after you've told the person who's giving you the gifts that this isn't wanted, this isn't appropriate, because it doesn't matter what reason you give them. If you don't want the gifts, you don't want them. Um, that is considered sexual harassment, because if someone is giving you gifts, they're doing it for a reason. They want something in return. So, you have to nip that kind of thing in the bud. Invasive text or calls. So, continuously bombarding an individual with text messages or phone calls or other forms of communication, despite being asked to stop or despite them blocking you. And sometimes people who have been blocked will find a way around the block. They'll call you from another number or something like that. Again, unwanted attention. Another form is unwanted compliments. So we often see this with sexual harassment, that there's this offering of constant unsolicited comments about an individual's appearance. Like, for example, I might get told, "Oh, you're so pretty when you wear makeup." I don't really need to hear that. I don't really, when I'm at work, I want to work. I don't want to hear how pretty I am or am not, whatever. So that can be uncomfortable and objectifying. And yes, I've had that happen to me, and I'm sure that many other women have had that happen to them as well. You don't have to stand for it. If someone says something that makes you uncomfortable, tell them, hey, I appreciate that, but it's not appropriate. I don't want to hear it anymore. And you have to be very stern and you have to be very serious without being bitchy. Because, yeah, anytime a woman expresses disapproval of something like that, the men always want to say, well, she's bitchy. No, I don't want to be objectified at work. I come to work to work. So you have to be very clear about your boundaries. Personal intrusion. Persistently prying into an individual's personal life, such as their relationships or their families or their living situation without their consent, definitely not respectful of your boundaries. Everyone has both personal boundaries and work boundaries. I used to say at work, my office is my boundary. You cannot come into my office without being invited. If you don't have an office, you might have a cubicle. You might just have a personal workspace. Make sure that people understand I have boundaries around this space, okay? Unwanted social media engagement. So now in the age of social media, we have people, constantly hitting you up on the Instagram or the Facebook or the TikTok or whatever. I don't even know what all the social medias are. I'm old school, guys, Gen X. So I don't know what all the ways are that people can hit you up. But if they're doing that and it's unsolicited and you don't want it, can be considered sexual harassment. There's also cyber stalking, where they are looking at your online activity and they're engaging in a pattern or practice with that it's meant to intimidate, it's meant to harass, it's meant to demean, it's meant to be harmful. People spread rumors and false information online. All of that is definitely it can be considered sexual harassment, and it's definitely just not appropriate. It's not cool. It's not something that should be going on. So if you're experiencing any of these kinds of behaviors, um, that is definitely, it can be considered sexual harassment, but it's just not cool, period. And you have to let people know that I don't appreciate this. Then there is non-consensual touching, and that is really a red flag. That is really, you need to let people know, no, you can't touch me. You're crossing the line. Definitely sexual harassment. So some examples of inappropriate touching are the touching of intimate body parts such as your breasts, your genitals, your buttocks, or any of your private areas. They should not be touched while you are working. Absolutely not. Fondling, groping, or squeezing or caressing someone in a sexual manner without their permission. Definitely sexual harassment. Forced kissing. I mean, this is where we're getting into the criminal. It's bordering on rape. And yes, you can be raped at work. And yes, it is a crime and it's sexual harassment. So, forced kissing, forcing an unwanted kiss on someone against their will in a sexual or romantic comments, brushing or rubbing. Okay, so this is someone who just thinks they're slick. They are just gonna brush up against you. I hate this kind of stuff. And then they're gonna act like, oh, what are you talking about? It's you. They're gonna play that gaslighting game. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. That BS. Pinching or slapping, inflicting pain through pinching, slapping, hitting, or in any sexual demeaning way, with touching you in any sexually demeaning way without your consent, that is inappropriate. Grabbing or hugging. Okay, so forcibly grabbing or hugging someone in a sexually or invasive way when you haven't given them permission, that is sexual harassment. Unwanted advances, persistently pursuing sexual advances, such as touching despite the person's refusals and objections. And then it tips over in sexual assault when we get into this engaging into non consensual sexual intercourse or penetration. That is a crime, and it also is a very severe form of sexual harassment. So, I think that I have explained unwanted attention and touching fairly well. You should have an idea of what that is and how that works. And we're clear on what we need to do in order to stop that. You need to verbalize your boundaries very clearly, as I've done constantly throughout this video. You need to be that clear. If it's, I wish you wouldn't do that, that is not going to be read as you saying, no, stop. In order to have that message received that I don't like this, you have to be very clear, very firm, very direct, and very clear. I have investigated hundreds of cases of sexual harassment. I'm telling you that unless you're very firm and very clear, I do not like this, you must stop, or else I'm going to be forced to report you to human resources. Unless you're that clear, it's going to persist, because anything other than that, unfortunately, the way men communicate versus the way women communicate, men are very aggressive and very direct in their communication. So, unless you're very direct and very aggressive in your communication, they take it as a yes, I want this, or maybe I want this, and they continue. So, I'm just being real with you. I always keep it 100% real with you. Am Lee, your everyday light worker and hip hop litigator. Ugh, got stuck on that word. Signing off. I'll be back with more videos on sexual harassment, though. All right, bye.